Hello friends, we're going to be talking about using scripture in our prayer and especially using scripture together with prayer companions this week. So I wanted to start out by offering you some suggestions on resources that you can use to help you to incorporate scripture into your prayer life. We also use the Bible in other ways. We use the Bible for study. We use the Bible for proclamation. We use the Bible for helping us to understand the story of our faith. But I want to speak specifically about how we incorporate the words of Scripture into prayer this week. Now, there are some really simple methods. If you just happen to have a Bible at home, you can always do a spontaneous daily reading. All you do is flip open to a page, look for a verse, and say, "Aha! Nations will see your righteousness, all kings your glory. You will be called by a new name, which the Lord's own mouth will determine." That is from Isaiah 62. Now, you might not get so lucky and get something positive like that. Some passages of Scripture, all by themselves, aren't terribly inspiring for prayer, and they aren't all that encouraging either. But it is one method. Other options include following some sort of plan or scheme. And so one way we can do that is by bringing home one of the little daily devotional books. This includes passages of Scripture, along with reflections for the day and even some prayers to share. And talking together with a prayer companion about the devotional passage for the day can be a wonderful way to help cement your relationship and to make sure that you're staying on spiritual topics. If that's not for you, you might also be surprised to know that there's an entire lectionary for every single day of the year. Now, in my article, I'm going to link to an online version of this, but if you have a copy of Evangelical Lutheran Worship in your home, you can actually find the lectionary for the whole year and all 3 years of a cycle. It's all the way at the back of the book, starts on page 1121, which seems like a lot of pages. But you'll find that every day of the week has a psalm to pray, as well as 2 scripture readings that you can reflect on. And then, of course, when you get to the Sundays, those will be the readings that we would all hear in church when we gather for worship. So following the daily lectionary is another wonderful way to incorporate scripture every day into your practice. You may find that you want to pray using words of Scripture that have a really wide range of feelings, emotions, human experiences. And when it comes to that, you can't do any better than the songbook of the Bible. That's the book of Psalms. Now, you obviously, if you have a Bible, will have a copy of the Psalms, but you may want to get what's known as a Psalter, which is just the book of Psalms in its own bound copy. I've got a couple different ones here. One is from Gene Peterson. This uses his Message paraphrase. Another is a more traditional Revised Standard version of the Psalms that also have Luther's psalm prayers that go with it. So reading a psalm every day, in my daily office I actually go through all 150 psalms in a 30-day period. But reading a psalm every day can be a way to express prayers that are not just joyful. There are prayers in the book of Psalms that are laments, that are angry cries out for justice, that are petitions for help, desperate cries for rescue, joyful celebrations, and all sorts of other things, everything in between. Everything from days of great celebration to days of great mourning. So reading some of the Psalms every day as a part of your prayer practice can be a really powerful way you can incorporate Scripture. Lastly, I want to lift up a resource like More Days for Praise. This is put out by Augsburg Fortress, and this was compiled by Gail Ramshaw. This gives a list of all of the special commemorations and festival days that we celebrate throughout the church year. And what's really wonderful is that many of these days where we're commemorating particular saints of history also have scripture passages that are connected to the life of that saint or that are connected to the biblical story that they come from. And so this is a wonderful way to incorporate some scripture that's topical. You can read about the particular person for that day and then also read some scriptures and hold that celebration in prayer. That's just a few of the ways you can incorporate Scripture. Other practices include things like Lectio Divina, which is to take one short passage and to read it slowly and aloud. And as you read it, you listen. And as you listen, you share with one another the word or the phrase that caught your attention. And then you give it some silent time. You read the same passage again. And this time you start to listen for things like, how is the text speaking to me today, based in my circumstances, where I am right now? It could be that that text is offering you a push, trying to nudge you towards something. It could be that the text is offering you a pull, drawing your attention to something you hadn't noticed before. It could be that the text really gives you a good whack, and maybe then it's a good time to switch to a different passage and see if there's something there to comfort your soul. And also, the text may be calling you towards some sort of response in the world. Lastly, after some silence, the text is read a third time. And at this point, we begin to turn our focus towards community. How is the text affecting us? So not just me, my life, my particular concerns, my particular prayers, but how is it affecting us? How does this text connect us to our neighbors inside the church, our neighbors outside the church, the people who most need our help, the people who most need our forgiveness, the people who most need our love? How is this text calling all of us out together as the church community to serve the world and to give part of ourselves away for the sake of those who are in need? This is a wonderful and powerful way to share Scripture together. And it can be really effective with a companion because, of course, there's the reading of Scripture, which you can pass back and forth. There's the sharing of the words that have meaning for you, which you can pass back and forth. And, of course, discerning where we are going together really is helpful to have at least more than one person. So, as you explore using Scripture in your prayer this week, I hope that you find that there are passages that illuminate and excite you. There are passages that swaddle you in the holy darkness of God. That there are passages that allow you to express your lament and your anger. And also that you come across words for prayer that help you to speak powerfully into your relationship with God and into your relationship with one another. Have a great week, and God bless.